Outside of mold, because I feel like, there's so much more to it. And you're right. I think mold EMFs are very big portions of it. But when we look at just the general things we're placing within our houses, let's even start with VOCs. Can you go into a little bit of what we should be looking at, even what that kind of term means to people?
Yeah, VOC, it means volatile organic compounds. What that means is that it off gases into the air and we breathe it in. So think about a fingernail polish remover, and someone's doing that, you can smell it throughout most of the house. Now, the chemicals that we're bringing into our house are very important to keep track of, because for one, a lot of these chemicals aren't tested fully on humans, but none of them are tested in combination with each other. Let's take bleach and ammonia, for example. You mix those two together, it makes chloramine gas, which can kill you, be very deadly. So we have this toxic soup in our house, and it typically makes up from the off-gassing that's coming from the furniture and the building material and the paints. It can come from the cleaning supplies that we're using. Then we mix in all of our personal care products, the shampoos, the conditioners, deodorants, makeup. And then we have pesticides that we're adding on top of that. And then potentially herbicides and weed killer from outside that make its way into the inside. And pretty soon we have a pretty toxic soup. You think, well, this stuff's in containers and it's closed up. Well, next time you're in the grocery store, go down the cleaning aisle and tell me what you smell. Now, all of those are sealed up in containers, but guess what? It's leaking out. It's creating this low-level toxic soup in your house. So it's very critical that we keep anything that's toxic out of the breathing air, out of the home.
I know a lot of patients that become very sensitive to chemicals, especially if they've been exposed and harmed by them and everything. But a lot of people aren't. You see this, and I used to live in New York City, and every time they'd be using kind of the cleaner indoors on metal, and it's really, pungent. But the guys using it would just be using it without sometimes gloves, and it wouldn't seem to impact them. Do you think we've become sort of desensitized to it, and the people that are having these reactions that are sensitive are actually the normal reactions we should be having to chemicals?
I think that the norm is to be somewhat sick for all of us. I don't know very many people over the 40s that is perfectly healthy. Right. It seems like the norm in the United States is to have something wrong with you, take a medication for this or that, or even if you don't even recognize it, you just don't have as much energy at the end of the day, or you have a little bit of brain fog or a little bit of irritability. So when you say that it doesn't affect people, I guarantee it's affecting those people. They're just not recognizing it. They're just kind of pushing through, and there's no acute symptoms. It's more of our long-term chronic illness.
Right. Those canaries in the cave, the sensitive ones, are actually the ones that are kind of, letting us know something wrong is out there. And beyond the chemical. Yeah, go ahead.
Some people do detox quite a bit better than other people. Some people are a lot more sensitive than other people. So there is a range. I mean, you can go into one household where one person's very sick, 3 other people are seemingly fine. It just hasn't caught up to them yet. Their toxic load, their toxic bucket hasn't filled up yet and overflowed.
That's a really good point, because some people say, hey, it's not impacting me. What's the problem? Why is it that person's sick? Something must be wrong with them. But we have to, that's something we look at even in our clinic here is something we call reaction modes from European biological medicine. You have different predispositions to how you detox certain things. So of course, we aren't all exposed to the same thing and have the exact same reaction. We have different, abilities to compensate for these things. So it's really important that we don't just judge someone else's reaction and say, well, I'm not having a reaction, it must be fine here. And if they're having reactions, something is wrong with them.